I'm Murray Carter. Welcome to Carter Cutlery's High Performance Tips. Terry, we follow a weekly routine of arms and chest for Monday, and we do back and biceps on Wednesday, and we do legs on Friday. What kind of routine is that called?
Well, what we've done, Murray, is we break it up into what we call push-pull legs. And old school, and some trainers even today, try to work the entire body in a single workout. Can't be done. You can't do justice to the whole lower body and do justice to the whole upper body in a single workout. You just can't do that. Your energy levels won't support that much activity. So what we've done is we've broken it down into something that makes sense. So what we'll do is we'll do one day, usually a Monday, and we'll push. And pushing means all those upper body motions that involve pushing.
Yeah.
Over whether the push be overhead for shoulders, straight out for chest, straight down for tricep work. So anything that involves a push movement we would do on a Monday. Wednesday we will do pull. So as we would do chin-ups, we would do low rows, we would do arm curls, anything for upper body that involves a pulling motion.
Okay.
Shoulder shrugs would be a pulling motion, that type of a thing. Legs we would do on Friday. So we'll hit our legs pretty severely on Friday, and we'll do leg press, we'll do leg extensions and leg curls and all of that. So why don't we run through all those real quick and see how that works.
Okay, I'm game. Let's go.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. We always want to work a large muscle group first before we work a small muscle group, so the torso supports a whole range of muscles, especially the pectoralis major and minor, which is what we're going to target here. We're also going to be working the shoulders. We're also going to be using the triceps. So I want to pay attention to how I do this. I've got the weights here. I'm secure. I'm safe. I'm going to use my hips to place the weights in a safe position at the shoulder, like that. So I didn't try to muscle them back and hurt my shoulder joint in doing so. From here, I'm going to lay my head down, and I'm going to push these straight overhead. From this motion now, where most trainers make mistakes, is they come straight down and they push straight up. Narrow range of motion. What we want to do is arc that motion so that we come out in a slight arc, let it stretch, and then push it back, following that slight arc. It's not a straight up and down motion, it's an arc. We're going to involve all of the muscles, not just a few straight up and down ones.
Okay.
Okay? You see how that works, Murray?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
All right, I'd like you to try that. When
Okay.
I'm done with this, I try to finish at the top, turn the weights, bring them to my thighs, and it'll sit me right up. Okay, I'm going to repeat that process, safely put them back where you can work with them. If I finish at the bottom, I don't have the power to push them up, so if I finish at the bottom, I bring them to the torso, and now watch what I'm going to do. This is real easy. I'm just going to roll them over, and then I'll sit up.
Oh yeah.
And the weights will pull me up. Okay? What last thing I want to do is let those weights drop to the side, down to the floor. I'm going to rip something in one or other or both shoulders for certain. Lay back. Perfect. Now kick them back. That was good.
Okay, so we don't want to go
You don't
straight
want
up.
to go straight up and down. You want to go with a
Yep.
slight arch. Not too much of an arch.
Okay.
Just enough of an arch that you can feel that you're incorporating more muscle.
There's a good stretch.
That's a good stretch. Peak at the top. Really contract the pectoralis major and minor at the top. Really peak. That's it. Now, if you do one straight up and down, you'll see the difference.
Oh yeah,
Much
easy.
This is much better for you. The results are what we're after, and we always check our ego at the door. It's not how much weight we move; it's how we move the weight.
You can feel the difference now to finish up.
Straight
We'll go like
down.
this.
Sit yourself
Okay.
right up. That's perfect. man.
Okay, now if we couldn't lift the weight again, we just drop them down here.
Yep. Roll them over.
Roll them over. Oh yeah, that's a
And
lot
sit
easier.
up.
It's a lot
Don't
easier.
drop them on the floor. It'll rip your shoulders out. You see the young kids come up to the club and they'll do that. and they'll lay over to one side. Man, that's putting so much pressure on those shoulder joints and they're so vulnerable. One real quick tip I'd like to toss into this real quickly. The rotator cuff muscles. Okay, you've got the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the subscapularis, and the teres minor. They comprise the four muscles that comprise the rotator cuff. How many times have you heard somebody say, I've injured my rotator cuff? Well, they were probably being stupid. Being stupid would have been to try to lay that weight down on the floor. Our rotator cuff muscles were designed to rotate the arm so that a primary mover can take the load. They were not designed to take the load, okay? So always remember that when we rotate the arm, which is what the rotator cuff does, it wasn't designed to take a lot of abuse. It's a small little short muscle. It's not even very thick. They can be developed. They need to be developed. Movements like this with resistance going this way will help strengthen part of the rotator cuff. Movements pushing this way help strengthen the rotator cuff. All the standard exercises that we do in the gym do not. Okay, so when we move into position in order to do a push movement, we need to protect the rotator cuff. That's why I'm using the hip thrust to get the weight up to position rather than try to muscle it up with something that isn't powerful enough to do that kind of work. See what I mean?
Okay.
Okay, protect the rotator cuff.
So even though this is just a common exercise, when the expert does it, there's a lot finer detail that
There's a lot of knowledge wrapped up in all these years of experience, and I share that with anybody that's willing to listen. Let's go over and try some push downs. I'll show you some tricep work. Okay, Murray, we've done some push work now. We've worked major muscle groups, and what that movement was a compound movement. That means that more than one muscle group was involved. Our shoulders, our chest, our triceps, that makes that particular motion what we call a compound movement. We're going to do some more isolated movements now, and we're going to work just the back of the arm, the tricep. Okay, typically at all gyms you'll see a pulley system like this, and you'll have a push down pulley, and what we want to do is bring those elbows in tight to the body. Put your thumbs on the top. Don't take it around the grip. Around the thumb grip on this bar. Put your thumb over the top. We're pushing it, we're not squeezing it. Okay, we're going to push it down, and we want the wrists to be up at the bottom, not rolled over. So I'm not going to roll my wrists over like this. I'm just going to push this thing down. Okay, I want the thumb on the top always because I'm going to use the thumb to push with. Okay, that's important because that's going to stimulate more of the tricep than if I do with my thumb under. So that is typically the motion that most people use for a tricep isolation movement. Now, Murray, step in there and try that. I want one foot slightly ahead of the other. I don't want them together. That's fine. Okay, bring those elbows tight to the body. That's perfect. And straight to the floor. That's perfect, Murray. You'll feel that now in the back of your arm. That's where you're supposed to feel it. We're isolating, we're targeting that part of the body on purpose. We've done our compound work. Generally, we'll do 2 or 3 exercises of compound work. We would do those lying dumbbell presses, we do inclines, we do bench presses. There's a lot of different things we can do. Okay, now stop with that.
I got a question for you, Terry.
Okay.
When I'm doing this, where should my mind be? Should I be Should I be humming a rock and roll song in my head, or what should I be doing?
Okay, that's something that I'll talk to you in length about as soon as we're done with what we're going to go to next.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and let that back up. Now, I want you to feel the difference. This is the rope. This flexes. This allows us to turn the wrists at the bottom. So on this exercise, we're going to get more range of motion into this rather than just a fixed position and working a portion of the tricep. They call it a tricep because it has 3 heads. Okay? We want to work them all, not just one. If we are on a fixed motion, we're probably only working one and maybe part of another. We want to work all three heads of the tricep. So that requires a rotation in the wrist and elbow in order to get all three heads of that tricep to work.
Okay.
So we want to hold the rope, not the knot. Okay? Don't hold the knot. Hold the rope. Bring the elbows down, lock them at the sides. The elbow should be pointing straight to the floor. One foot slightly ahead in front of the other. I want to keep my chin tucked down, and I want to push down until my elbows start to go past the L shape of the arm, and then I want to begin to rotate that palm towards the floor and pull this rope apart. So if I'm not holding it, I want to go through that motion with you, Murray. If I'm not holding it, the rope, and I'm going to go through the motion, I push until I'm past the L shape, and then I start to rotate and spread, and then I'm going to like pull the rope apart.
Okay.
Okay? That is going to incorporate the whole back of the arm. So the way I tell my trainers is you want to push, down, and pull out. In and up. Down and out. In and up. That's the motion. And if you do a few of these and compare it to the fixed position that we just did, you will see a vast difference in the way the back of your arm feels.
Okay.
Bring yourself right in, take a half step forward. That's it. Pull it apart. Perfect. With that position now and the luxury of movement, you're allowing your tricep to be influenced by that movement, and you're working all three heads.
Oh yeah, I can really feel it.
You can really feel the difference.
Really focus in on that muscle.
Perfect. Now, you had a question for me when we were back on the fixed apparatus.
Yeah. Well, I notice a lot of folks, they like to listen to their music while they're exercising. We don't when we work out, and I'm figuring there's a reason for that.
There is a reason for that. It's a big reason. I like to see people enjoy themselves first. If they like to enjoy their music while they're at the gym, that's great. If they're really serious trainers, they won't have any music going because their brain's going to be working. Mm-hmm. What we call a mind-to-muscle connection is exactly that. It's an electrical charge that goes from the muscle back to the brain, or from the brain to the muscle. It's a highway of information. It's feeding and absorbing information during your actual physical training. With an exercise like the one we just did, where we're going to push down and pull apart, and then bring it back in, and then come back to the beginning, that requires a great deal of mental effort to concentrate on just this muscle doing that work. Okay? And in order for me to make that connection, the distraction of music, unless I have trained myself to do
or conversation with some friend.
Most people can generally block out background noise unless it's something that's unusual. But the mind to muscle connection is very, very important, and it's very, very hard to learn. One of my trainers, whom you interviewed here the other day, Colin Muller, he's just now learning that, and he's been with me for 5 years. So once you have the ability to actually make that connection, you can forget about all of this part of the arm. You can forget about everything else that's happening throughout the body and tune into that one muscle, and it will do all the work and receive all the mental responses, and obviously benefit a great deal more from what work you are doing. So that's the mind to muscle connection, and that's how that works.
Okay, now you've demonstrated the push concept. Next comes pull.
Next comes pull. Pull would be on a different day. We want to push on one day and recuperate from that. And now that you've mentioned that, Mary, it brings to mind, I need to explain to you and to the audience that what we're trying to do is, if we're going to address this as a bodybuilding tip, We want to work the body enough on that particular push day so that we would have more than just these two exercises that we demonstrated. We'd have a great deal more. I don't suggest more than 4 to 5 sets of compound movements, and I don't suggest more than 4 to 5 complementary isolation movements for a body part. That would be more than enough to give you enough stimulation to either create growth or to maintain tone and conditioning, whatever your goal may be. Growth is going to be diet dependent, and that opens up a whole different can of worms there. In order to stimulate the body well enough so that it's going to either do one of those responses, either be toned and conditioned or stimulate growth, as in a young bodybuilder coming up, what you want to do is make that muscle work hard enough that it's going to need 6 days to recover before you work it again. And you'll see a lot of people come to the gym and they'll work, like we were talking earlier, work their whole body in one day. You can't do that. You can't do justice. If you want to work a body and you're going to stimulate it enough to make it actually grow, then you need to really nail it. And I mean nail it. So that means an effort that is going to require you to go all the way to failure and maybe a little bit beyond that. So it's a real challenge. It's a heck of an effort.
You got to get a little bit out of most people's comfort zone, even when exercising, to nail it.
Yeah, if you wanted to be comfortable, stay at home. The couch is real comfortable, but if you come to the gym, be prepared for a real hard workout.
Well, if we come to Terry's gym, we're going to get a really hard workout.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's a Carter Cutlery high performance tip.